hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It's a late one tonight, as you can see. 9:30. What time do you call this? Right, live streaming at 9:30 this Sunday. You all want to stick a film on. You just want to put your feet up before the working week begins again. Sorry to remind you that it's Monday tomorrow, but it's a late one. I've had a very busy day filming with Billy and other things, so I've only had the chance to kind of sit down now and collect myself ahead of the week ahead. And obviously, normally I would put the Q&A on a Monday night, a Tuesday night, whatever, but with us having a midweek game, which is rare at this point of the season, it kind of throws the schedule up in the air a little bit. So I thought, you know what, tonight we'll sit down, we'll talk about the very little news that is out there, and I'll let you guys dictate the conversation and talk about what you want to talk about, because that's the whole point in these streams. So if you are joining me live, hello, it's nice to see. It's nice to see some of the members tuning in, Mackenzie being there, Alan being there. It's nice seeing non-members as well, of course. And if you're watching back in video fashion, well, it's nice to see you as well. Make sure to go down below, hit like, hit subscribe. Can we hit 50,000 subscribers before the Scottish Cup final? We need about 700 people to press the subscribe button to do that. It's a hard task, but if there's one last push, you never know. So Celtic off the back of another win this weekend against Hibs at Celtic Park. 3-1 winners, and because Rangers won against Aberdeen this afternoon, that means it's still a 17-point gap at the top of the Scottish Premiership table. But we now move in to the final week of the season. This is it. The last two games, Aberdeen on Wednesday, St Mirren on Saturday. The curtain will fall on the Scottish Premiership 2024-25 campaign, and Celtic will lift their 55th Scottish Premiership trophy on Saturday. So it's a big week ahead. Our preparation for the Scottish Cup final, of course, which is still around 2 weeks away roughly, but we want to go into that full of confidence. And I spoke about this in my match reaction yesterday. I spoke about how good Celtic were on Saturday and how it just looked as though we're not taking our foot off the gas. And I think that's so vital. That's so important heading into a Scottish Cup final. And when you look at the contrast of both teams in the final this weekend, I mean, the gap couldn't look wider, could it? You've got one winning 3-1 against the side sitting third, the side who have been arguably the best in the country outside of Celtic. And then you've got the other Scottish Cup finalists losing 4-0 to a team who haven't won a home game in over 2 months. So it's a real sharp contrast between the two. And Celtic right now are the team that will be heading into Hampden full of confidence. And we need to sustain that on Wednesday night, because that's a kind of dress rehearsal, isn't it? Albeit it's at Pittodrie, not Hampden. But it's still a game where we'll put the feelers out. We'll see how Aberdeen approach it. I don't think it'll paint the full picture of what to expect in the final. At the end of the day, the final's a completely different sort of game, and there's a trophy on the line, and Aberdeen will want to have a go for it, whereas the league is sort of done. But we still need to go in brimming full of confidence, and I'm sure we will. So big game on Wednesday. We will be previewing that throughout the week as well. As for news that I wanted to cover before we get into the Q&A, you would have seen a certain young man on the thumbnail for today's video, and that was Sean McArdle, who had a fine looking cameo in his brief 5 or 10 minutes he made it on the park at the weekend, his debut for Celtic at a professional level, and he captured a lot of people's eyes. He caught the eyes of a lot of people, saying that it was a great wee display from him, that they want to see more of the youngster, and even the manager obviously spoke about it as well. Brendan Rodgers said that Sean has done well with the B team. He's 17 years of age, so to come out and get that feeling was great for him. He needs to build on that now. He's got that feeling. He's not a first-team player yet. He's just had an opportunity. He's shown personality when he's come on, and now he needs to speak to Callum McGregor and the guys who have come through the system. But now the really hard work begins to try and sustain that. So Sean McArdle isn't somebody we should be expecting to see in the first team next season by any stretch. And I don't think anybody would have assumed that anyway. Still a long way away from there, but been given a huge opportunity and took it well with the first impressions that Celtic fans are getting of the young guy. I thought he looked sharp, he looked creative, he was wanting to make things happen in the middle of the park. And, you know, the more good examples we get of the youth system will give us more to be encouraged about with the youth system moving forward, because it's been a system that's flawed over the last decade. I mean, you go over the last decade, who has the youth system produced for Celtic? Nobody. The closest thing we got to was Ben Doak, who was sadly snatched from us before he even had a chance to blossom at the club. Apart from him, we've not produced anybody who is doing enough. So we like seeing cameos like this, but we want to build off cameos like this, and it's up to him to put in the hard work to make sure his head is screwed on to take these chances and run with them. And it wasn't the only youngster that Brendan Rodgers spoke about over this past weekend. So I enjoy the fact that we're talking about the youth team a little bit more, because it does reassure you that there is a plan and that there is work being done within the B team and the youth system moving forward, so that we are giving players chances. One of the players that Brendan Rodgers spoke about was actually Dane Murray, who we've only seen a couple of times this season, one of them being in the Champions League against Aston Villa. Remember, he was subbed on at Villa Park, came on, and it was a tough game to come into, but Champions League debut was a huge opportunity for him, or should I say main Champions League debut. I think he played against Midtjylland a few years ago, actually, in the qualifiers. But Brendan Rodgers was full of praise for him and said that he won't see him because he's picked up yet again another injury. He's getting his knee fixed. He said to Celtic TV that he won't be back in before the end of the season, or given any chances before the end of the season, because he is injured. Sadly for him, he's just had a wee clean-up of his knee. But Dane is one I really like. So very strong words from Rodgers. You don't really hear him come out and say that about young players all that often. Usually it is about, contrast that between what we just said about Sean McArdle. With McArdle, it was like, he's not in the first team, he's been given a chance, and now he needs to go out and do hard work. It was kind of like, don't expect too much anytime soon. But with Dane, he's came out and said he's one that I really like. He's got a lot of attributes. He's big, he's got good pace, he's strong, he's brave, he's competitive, and he can play. But sadly for him, it'll be pre-season with him, and then again, it'll be a decision of who's around to play, or do we need to get him games. So sounds like Brendan Rodgers will weigh up the possibility of a loan move for Dane Murray next season. But I think that Dane Murray you've got to think about Dane Murray, right? Dane Murray, we've seen him for the first time in 2021. Like, that's coming up 4 years ago. The lad is getting a little bit older now. His chances in the first team, you want to see them come about sometime soon. So if we are going to loan him out to get him games, number one, we need to hope he stays fit and healthy. I think that's what's held him back from developing in these 4 years since we first seen him. When we seen him against Midtjylland with Ange Postecoglou back in a 6,000, 7,000 capacity or attended game because of COVID. The reason we've not seen him kick on is mostly because of knee injuries. It seems like that's really held him back. So we need to see him fit and healthy, first of all. But if we are going to loan him out, it can't be like to Queen's Park. And I mean this with all due respect to teams like Queen's Park. Can't be to Queen's Park, can't be to Ayr United. Like, you've got to get him up a level. You've got to get him to a team that he's going to ultimately see the progression at and playing at this level. Now, is there going to be any teams in the Scottish Premiership who are willing to take that gamble on him? But I'm not so sure about that. But I'm sure the club will work on that. They've got a full pre-season to go through things like that. But it was nice to hear Brendan Rodgers talk about him, because he's somebody who's been on the precipice of being involved in this Celtic team, and then just unfortunately had that chance taken from him through means out of his control. So, two of the young players that Rodgers was speaking about over the weekend, it gives you a little bit of hope that we will see a kind of maybe a better transition between the B team or the youth system and the main team. Maybe there will be players that come through the system more frequently in coming years. Of course, we've done a lot of rejigging, I should say, of the development system. We appointed Darren O'Day to the head of players' pathways or whatnot. So there's been a lot of work done there. And it's just a question of whether or not it'll work. But we need to see examples of that working, I'd say, in the next 2 to 3 years to really give us some faith. Nonetheless, that was pretty much all there was in the news. Actually, there was one big one. If you are planning, and I'm pretty sure we've all seen all this by now. If you're planning on going to the Merchant City, I will not be there. If you're planning on going to the Merchant City on Saturday for the title celebrations, please be careful. There has been an absolute nightmare of a mix-up, and if you are planning on going there, be prepared to see lots of orange, because there has been an orange walk planned for Saturday, the same day as Celtic's title celebrations. That was confirmed. The organisers of an orange walk have been asked to switch the parade to a later date, but I mean, you know what usually happens in these situations, they'll probably turn around and say no. So that could be a little bit of a mix-up. There has been concerns expressed from locals and whatnot. Kickoff is at 12:30, so the Merchant City will probably start filling up around 3 o'clock, maybe even before that. So the Orange Walk is meant to start at 10 in the morning. You'd like to hope it was finished before Celtic fans even turned up, but everybody starts drinking early. The bar is not far, of course. Yeah, it's an absolute calamity, to be quite honest. Something out of a fucking Only an Excuse sketch, really, isn't it? You know, having an orange walk the same day as the other teams out, Celtic's out celebrating the league title. God knows how we're in the day and age and orange walks allowed, but nonetheless, keep an eye out. Be careful if you're going. As I said, I won't be there. I think the Merchant City celebrations have run its course a wee bit for me. It's just not for me, thanks. But nonetheless, keep an eye out. Be careful and stay updated. Make sure you're checking the right places. The Glasgow City Council Twitter will maybe keep you updated on it, but just keep an eye out on social media. Right, we're nearly at the halfway mark with this stream. So if you want to start getting your questions in, it would be pretty good to talk about different things. I would love to speak about them. Ranny's Rover saying, I hope that we give Lenny Agber a chance next season. He's doing well on loan at Ayr United. Heard some high praise from the Ayr fans. He's a big, strong centre-half that isn't afraid of a tackle and a header. I watched the Ayr game the other night. Didn't necessarily have a great game in that match, but yeah, I've heard good things. I think he's still another year or two out from being ready for big chances in the first team, if I was to give my honest assessment. You've got to remember it's a huge jump, and the gulf in quality right now between the Scottish Championship and the Scottish Premiership is huge. Like, I am fully expecting the team who wins the playoff to get an absolute doing off whoever finishes 11th in this league, because the gap is massive. So yeah, well, of course I want to see him eventually come in and get a chance. I think he's maybe another year away from that, though. Once again, I think it's always too much to ask of a young guy coming back from a championship loan to come into this team. They really need to be tested in the top flight before you can make an assumption. Put it this way, and I know this is harsh, and I don't want to sound like I'm disregarding any youngsters from getting a chance. If Celtic were to sign a centre-half from Ayr, would you be happy with him coming into the Celtic team? Probably not. So I think he needs another step up. I'm not convinced enough of Lenny yet to say that he's anywhere near the team, but I'm not disputing that he's not had decent spells at Ayr this season, 100%. Liam Scales gets a lot of shit on social media. Do you think he's good enough? Ultimately, no. Listen, I like Scalesy. I think for domestic football, he's fine. But if you're going to ask the big serious question about Liam Scales being good enough is about progressing, moving forward, having a team that's fit and available for the derbies and the Europe and so on. I don't think Scales is that level. I don't. And I like the lad. I think that he's been a great servant for Celtic the last couple of years, but I just think that his Celtic career has maybe went as far as it's going to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if Liam Scales moves on in the next 2 years or so. I just don't look at him and think there's a comfortable top class player there. And I think that would be the honest assessment. And I would say that maybe about Austin Trusty as well. I don't look at Austin. I've been a big fan, a big backer of Trusty, and I still think he's got time left to give us and such. But I look at Trusty the same way as I look at Scales. I go, he's not the top class player that Celtic need. And I think there's work to be done in that position still. Even though we thought we might have addressed it with the signing of Trusty, I still think there's work to be done there. How many Ida/Engels type players? So you're saying £10 million players? I'm assuming that's the question. You mean how many Ida/Engels type players will we sign this summer? How many £10 million players? I would say max 3, realistically 2. I think we'll sign a couple. I think that we'll sign a striker for some money between the £7 and £10 million mark. And I think we might sign a winger between the £7 and £10 million mark. We should sign a centre half between the £7 and £10 million mark. But I don't know if we'll go for all 3, in my opinion. That's just, it's too early to tell though. I think we need to start hearing more about the window heading into it before we can really work up an idea as to how many Ida/Engels price range players we should expect to sign. Did you find out what happened to Coons? Aye, champions again, bro. Cheers for the content over the year. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I think Rogers addressed it on Friday. I think it was a clash in training, he said. Something along the lines. A lot of people were still on social media very confused as to what happened. And maybe some people asking for proof that something actually did happen. According to the manager, it looks as though he had a clash. And it required a bit of attention, hence the reason he's wearing a bandage. I think that's essentially what happened. I'm planning. Oh, I like comments like this because I like helping people out. I'm planning my first ever trip to Scotland for a wedding during the first weekend of next league season's first match. Do I have a chance of snagging a ticket for the first game of the season? Very slim chance, but always a chance. There will be general sale tickets, albeit a very little amount. If you're quick enough, if you're on the website for the release of the tickets and you're in the queue ready to go to press buy when the general sales are released, there is always a chance. And if you keep an eye out for spares, you might get lucky as well. People still on holiday and things like that. There's a chance. There's not a 0% chance. Small chance, but there's a chance. So just be sharp, be ready to strike for tickets, and I hope you get one. I hope you enjoy yourself when you're over. Let's see. We've got so Sam kind of agreeing scales is good for domestic games, but always a bomb scare in Europe at Ibrox. I agree. That's the word that I would use. Very bomb scare like, and we've had a few bomb scare centre halves over the past decade, haven't we? But Scales is one of them. He is one of them. I will not be going to the Merchant City. No, I will not be there. It's not that great. I'm just going to call it how it is. And I've said, when you boil it down, it's pretty pants. I don't mean to be a party pooper, but it is. Because it's everybody standing in their own wee social circles that you would go to the pub with anyway, or go to somebody's house in, and you stand in your wee circles, you don't talk to anybody else, while bottles are smashing all around you, and every time a chant starts, it just peters out because nobody can sing in bastard unison. It's a mess. It's just no, I don't think it's great. And maybe I'm just getting old and sour, but I think you'd have a much better time going into a Celtic boozer, to be quite honest. Money saver, don't get me wrong, money saver. You can take your own drink down. Ryan, do you see the Feast Garden deal getting done this summer or another player instead in the window? If I was in charge of recruitment and I was in charge of the situation, if I didn't have an answer off Matthias Feast Garden by the 15th of June, I'd be moving on. I would not be dragging it out. I would not be pissing about. If he does not have an answer for Celtic by the 15th of June that he wants to sign for the club, I would be moving on. I would like to see it happen. I'm not full of confidence it will happen, but we will sign a striker. We will definitely sign a striker, I think. Would I sell Trusty in the summer? I think that's a bit extreme. I wouldn't sell him. I think that he needs to get a lot of improving done to his game. I think he's got a lot of convincing to do. For somebody I was very high on when he first arrived, especially. I think he's got a lot of work to do, but I wouldn't sell him. I think that ideally next season, the centre-half situation is Vickers, a new left-footed centre-half, and the backups being Trusty and another right-footed centre-half. And then maybe keeping around somebody else as maybe like a fifth sort of option. That would be my ideal situation. But we'll wait and see. I was never a big Starfelt fan, but I take him back in a heartbeat. The drop in quality in the centre-back positions at Starfelt. Starfelt, one of the most criminally underrated Celtic players in my lifetime. I said it at the time, I'll say it again. Cracking player, miss him lots. Unfortunate. He had to leave for personal reasons, of course. We all know why he left, and I don't hold it against him. Family and relationships and such are a big part of life. I don't hold it against him, but we do miss him. I would agree. There's another one related to Starfelt. You talk about skills and Trusty not looking good enough. Did you ever have that thought with Starfelt, or did you believe he was good enough to take us forward? Taking us forward is maybe a stretch, but I thought he was good. I liked him. I don't think he was unbelievable by any stretch of the imagination. I think he was better than Trusty and Scales, though. I always thought he would have been a really solid option to keep around. Taking us forward, as I said, maybe a stretch. Not as faithful in him as I was in Vickers, but I liked him. I thought he was very over-analysed. Thank you, Ewan, for the donation, mate. It is very much appreciated. Thank you. Hi, Ryan. Not been well this weekend, so been stuck in your content. Cheers me up. Thank you, mate. Thank you, Ewan. I really appreciate that. That's touching. Thank you. Did you enjoy Backlash? Hail, hail. Hope you get to 50k subs soon. Thank you, Ewan. I really do appreciate that, mate. And the donation especially. I did enjoy Backlash. Solid show. Nothing incredible. Me and Billy done a reaction to it earlier on tonight. So if you want to see my full analysis of the show, it's live on the Wrestling Forever channel. But I enjoyed it. And thank you for asking. And thank you for the donation, Ewan. It's got to scroll down the chat a wee bit. We've got about 10 or so minutes. So if you want to keep piling in your questions, keep doing so. I would love it. What do you think our most likely market for players would be? Are we raiding the championship this season or further afield? We were hearing the rumours about Josh Brownhill and how he could be a signing. And he's obviously from the championship, Premier League promoted, but championship signed them from. I don't know if that's 100% happening. It is only rumours. Don't read too much into it at the moment. I don't think we're going to be reading the championship. I think we'd be looking further afield. Celtic are a very diverse. At the end of the day, Connor, I think it's too hard to pin down a specific market that Celtic are going to shop in. We are a team that needs to shop in all markets. Hence the reason the last 5 years, our best players have all came from different places. They've come from Japan, of course, with Kyogo, Maeda, Hatate. They've come from Portugal with Jota. They've come from England with Cameron Carter-Vickers, with Matt O'Reilly. They've come from Canada and America with Alistair Johnston. They've come from Belgium with Kasper Schmeichel. We shop in all markets. You can't necessarily pin one specific market down to Celtic and where they sign from. And I think there's always a common misconception that Celtic, we love our Scandinavian players or we love our Japanese players. And when you really boil it down and you put out a big chart of all the players we've signed over the last 10 years, I don't think there'll be one league that specifically dominates. There'll be ones that obviously come up every now and then and maybe a wee bit more than others, but you go through all of our best signings, they've all come from different places. You know, they've all come. Odsonne Edouard came from France. Moussa Dembele came from England. You know, players just come from everywhere, you know, and that's what we need to do to operate at a club of Celtic size. We need to shop. We have to be able to shop in all sorts of markets. Why did the lighting just go very bright? We need to be able to shop in loads of markets. We need to be adaptable, and that's what we need to see a display of in this summer window, I would say. Hello, Murray. Nice to see you. Yes, Ryan, mate. I hope you're well. Not to sound negative, but I think we're going to need a centre forward, maybe 2 centre halves. Personally, just said the same thing, didn't I? I just said the same thing. Not keen on scales at all. Not to sound harsh either. Look, listen, I don't think it's harsh. I just think it's. And I notice I tend to find there's always a kind of small element of the Irish support who say I'm always out for Scales because he's Irish. If he was Italian, I wouldn't do it. If he was French, I wouldn't do it. I would, because I don't think you can let home bias. I wouldn't let it blame me with a Scottish player. I never have. I wouldn't let it blame me with an Irish player. He's generally just not an amazing player, and that's that. I don't want this to turn into a stream where I feel like I'm just banging on Liam Scales and berating him. There's a few players that are in that sort of situation. Kyogo will get a winner's medal. He will. Anybody who's made 10 appearances for Celtic this season will get a winner's medal. And the players who haven't, Vinny Sansalo, for example, they'll get one bought by the club for them. Everybody in the team will get a medal that's involved on Saturday, even if they've not played 10 times. The club will buy them medals. But to get an official medal, to be recognised official champion, I think you need to play 10 games. What do you think about having two 20-team leagues in Scotland? I only ever hear of them had 12 or 14 teams with random splits. 20 is too much. And not to just shoot you down there, Paul, because it's not a terrible suggestion. It's just too much. When you get outside of that range of 14 and 16 teams, the gulf gets even deeper. It gets deep enough when you start looking at even the top half of the championship this season. If you isolate that, right, you think of the gap between even Dundee and Ayr United. It's huge. It's a huge gap. So when you start going to 20 teams and then you're bringing up the teams who are like, you're bringing up a Greenock Morton or you're bringing up Queen's Park, the gap is huge. And I know that these 20-team leagues would be intended to bring the gap to kind of shorten that gap and to make teams closer, but I don't think that would necessarily work. It would have to be a 14 or 16 team, at most 18 team setup. I think that 20 is just, the gulf is just too big, and that's just not going to work, sadly, unless there's a serious change in Scottish football anytime soon. Nathan, good to see you, mate. Do you think we should be investing more in the infrastructure of the clubs that have broke the mold in Europe? Ajax, Brugge, Benfica, recently Bodo have ridiculously good academies. Listen, I've been doing this 9 years now. I'm coming up to my 10th season doing this on YouTube, and it's one of those. I mean, I can't even begin to count the amount of times that I've spoke about Celtic being compared with an Ajax, or more recently the likes of Bodo. Celtic have a lot of work to do. What I will say is we had this conversation last year, and it won't go. It's not just went away. I've not spoken about it recently, but it's not went away. Celtic have a lot of work to do. That is, when they gave Darren O'Day that job last year as the head of player pathways, I'm not criticising him or the job that he's doing, because I don't know enough about the job that he's doing. But it didn't strike me as the serious type of appointment or restructuring that was going to transform the nature of how this club works fundamentally in the youth systems. It just struck me as an easy way out for the club and something to put a statement out about. I think there's a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. So we should be investing more. I hope it's something that happens when they finish all of these projects like the Barrafield complex and stuff. But we're just going to have to wait and see. It's something that's been neglected for too long, and I don't have a lot of faith will change anytime soon. Dean, thank you for the donation, mate. Thank you. Get yourself the new top, mate. Love your collection. Should do a video. I need to do a collection video. I need to update it. Granted, it's not changed all that much. A wee bit. I'll need to do one. Maybe this summer. I always say every summer I might do one, but I'll be getting a new top as soon as I can. Thank you. Any away/third leaks. The away top has been leaked. We've talked about it in the channel a few times. The away top's out there. You can see it. If you go and look it up, you'll find it. No, I done a video on it channel. In terms of the third leaks, it's going to be off-white, and that's all we know right now. It's going to be an off-white kind of colour. If you think of the Bayern off-white shirt they had this year, that sort of colour, there should be a trefoil on that kit as well. So a trefoil off-white shirt for Celtic in the third top department. So if you see anything else, it's probably fake. Thank you for the donation, by the way, Dean. I really appreciate it, mate. What do you make of Trent getting booed today? I said this the other day. I think that's harsh, yeah. I know it's not Celtic related, but it's interesting you bring it up, Doug. I think it's harsh. The lad's done everything he can with Liverpool. Who is he to not back the chance of playing for Real Madrid? You know, it reminds me of when there was a certain selection of Celtic fans who were giving Tierney grief for going to Arsenal. I think it's very self-entitled and petty, to be honest. And I get people go, oh, well, he's going in a free and all that. And what? What's he going to do? Sign another contract for the sake of your club making money? You're rich enough. It's Liverpool, for fuck's sake. I think it's terrible, personally. I don't like Trent. I don't think he's that good, to be honest. But I don't think he's deserved to be booed. I think it's pretty poor. It's pretty petty, is what I would say. Let's see. Darren O'Day getting linked with Swansea. Wow. I wouldn't be surprised if Darren O'Day was to pick up a managerial job soon. He seems like somebody who could be on a few radars. Would you give Nawrocki a proper chance in the team? He's going to be gone in the summer, mate. I've said that a million times. Not to just disregard your question, Daniel, but Nawrocki will be gone in the summer. I would rather Nawrocki over Scales personally. I'd like to see Nawrocki get another couple of chances. Larga Bielke will be gone in the summer as well. Pretty confident of both of those. Helen, nice to see you. Do you think Celtic's next captain? I think it'll be Tierney or maybe Johnson. It will be Tierney. Tierney is Celtic's next captain, and he will be until he retires. Because Tierney's back for good now. I would be shocked if Tierney ended up moving again. I think he's back, and he's back for good. Touch wood. Touch head of wood that he is. Tierney will be Celtic's next captain. And I've always agreed that Johnson would be a phenomenal captain. 100%. But Johnson will probably end up finding a move in the next couple of years. He's that good a player. He's probably getting looked at. He doesn't owe anything to Celtic. Tierney's the next captain. And I think it's a no-brainer. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Yeah, I guess that's where more of the anger comes from with the Trent stuff, the fact that it has been bubbling away and all the rest of it. But, you know, it's his career at the end of the day. If he has a chance to go to Madrid and write himself in the legacy of Real Madrid and to make a lot of money, who are they to deprive him of that? Maybe I just hate Liverpool supporters. I have a bias, but still. Yeah, I don't get it, you know. Exactly. Oh, he's not getting the club money. You're not getting any of it. Unless you're a shareholder and you might get some pennies off it. No, Nathan, it's just bonkers to me, mate. It's bonkers to me. Let's see. Greetings from Munich. Unfortunately, we didn't complete all the way. Hello, Benedict, and thank you for coming from Munich. I appreciate it, mate. A lot of scale slander in the chat tonight. I've noticed that. But it's just kind of came from nowhere as well. Do I want Ange to win the Europa United? They'll finish off on that. I'll let you guys make the assumption of who I want to win the Europa League. I don't think it will be popular. It is. I a bittersweet one for me because I would love to see Ange win it. And if United don't win it, I won't be gutted. But I'm not gonna say who I want to win out loud because I feel like it won't go down as a popular one. But it's just a shame I had to pan out this way. Anyway, if you've enjoyed tonight, ladies and gents, thank you for joining me. Hit like and subscribe. It's been a cracking wee night. We'll be back sometime next week or whatever to do another one of these streams. But thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and I'll see you all next time.